So, welcome back and hello if you are new. I hope all of you are having a wonderful, wonderful time and getting into that festive spirit. I know I've kind of not really felt all that Christmassy in the last sort of couple of weeks, but today I'm really feeling it. I think as we ramp up near to the actual day of Christmas. So with that in mind, I come to my final video of both my album of the years and my 2021 videos. I'll be looking at my top 5 albums of the year, but before I get to the coveted #1 spot, I'm also going to kind of have a couple of honourable mentions of bands that I worked alongside, so I kind of didn't really include them in my list. Anyway, let's get things kicked off with Iron Maiden and Senjutsu. This album wasn't actually in my top 5 for quite a long time, actually. And then I remember when I was kind of doing my list and stuff, and I always bounce stuff off of my wife, and one of the things that she said was, she was like, "Where's Iron Maiden? Why is Iron Maiden so low?" And then I thought, oh, actually, yeah. And really, when I thought about it, I have not stopped talking about playing this Iron Maiden album ever since, especially the writing on the wall. I learnt that on guitar and, everything. Anyway, it's got my number 5 position of album of the year. It's an absolutely fantastic record. This is the second double album that they've treated us with off the back of the Book of Souls. It pretty much kind of came out of nowhere for us, normal people who aren't in the Maiden camp. And for me, it just carries on this sort of prog vibe that Iron Maiden are really kind of grooving in at the moment, which is a great thing. I love progressive Iron Maiden. Some of my favourite Maiden songs are the longer ones. Absolutely phenomenal record that showcases, even though they're on album number 16 or 17, just how brilliant Iron Maiden always have been and always will be. So I'm not gonna lie, I was tossing and turning between having Mastodon in here or Deafheaven in here. And the thing that kind of clinched it for me was that I've listened to this record so much, and it has been my go-to record to relax this year. Anytime I felt kind of any stress or anything like that, I put Infinite Granite on and instantly everything just kind of melts away. But I also love the fact that this is Deafheaven doing something different, embracing more of that shoegaze element that they've had, but also not throwing away the black metal stuff. Every sort of 3 songs on this album, there's that, hint of George Clark's black metal vocals which comes through. It was also probably my most anticipated record from when it was announced, and I remember the day it was announced. It was this beautiful summer's day. Laura and I were driving down to Brighton just to kind of have a nice day off and stuff. And I've always got that, that sense of glistening nostalgia with it. So that's definitely one of the reasons that it's been kind of bumped up to position number 4. But most of all, it's just a fantastic record. Now, this is the discovery of the year, my favourite new band, whatever happens. I'd never heard of this band before. They'd signed to Unique Leader Records and they released a single called This Hollow Ache, and I was fucking hooked. Illustrious, A Monument to Silence is absolutely sensational. They combine all the best moments of progressive, technical, death metal-y, black metal, I guess, but kind of, especially after I spoke to the guys, Chris and Mike, I kind of realised just how similar our favourite bands are, So this album kind of looks at the idea of mental health, and that's kind of the overall concept. But for me, it's the musical threading that goes through the fact that you hear the first melody on This Hollow Ache that's reprised for the coolest fucking solo I think I've heard it for ages. I've started trying to learn it on guitar. and it's just absolutely insane on that title track, A Monument to Silence. It's cool, it's slick, and I also think that this album really has flown under a lot of people's radars. I've not really heard many people talking about it, so I really wanted to make sure that, you know, I got the word out, because it's such a great record, and I really do think that, you know, if the band carry things on, they're onto some very, very promising things indeed.
But it's time for both of us to let this go.
I'll be honest, I did not expect this. I was a fan of The Valley, but I don't know if it even made it into my albums of the year. I thought it was a great idea, it was a great concept, but it just kind of didn't really do it for me. But Kin, oh my god, this is without a doubt my most played record of the year. It's kind of that album where I didn't, you know, if I literally wasn't sure what to listen to in any mood, I put Kin on. It's absolutely fantastic. But most importantly though, I think it's underpinned the evolution of the band. You know, they explored with some new ideas on Mark of the Blade and then on The Valley. But then I think they've really kind of extrapolated on those ideas on Kin particularly. And weirdly enough, I remember the first time hearing it thinking, oh, this isn't really like that heavy. And, you know, I wanted more songs like Lost Boy. But then the more I listened to it, the more I was like, actually, no, this is what I really, really am enjoying. Like some of the softer moments, like on Orphan, the title track, Kin. And The History is Silent, I think, is one of the tracks. And I also think this is one of the, you know, it kind of carries on from that theme that was on The Valley, but this is kind of a more interpersonal sort of battle within that Phil has been going through. But most of all, I think it's the fact that they're thriving. You know, they're not just kind of like maybe sort of exploring different ideas, but they're just getting better and better and better. And Ben Savage's guitar solos on here are amazing. Like, everything is just absolutely spot on. But yeah, definitely listen to Kin by Whitechapel. Absolutely amazing record. Now, before I get to my coveted album of the year position, I wanted to give some, I guess, like honorable mentions of some of the albums that I've had the pleasure of working on whilst I was at the Noise Cartel. So the reason I haven't featured these is because I was working on them as a publicist, you know, looking after print and online press for them. So yeah, here we go. First off, I want to shine a light on Enforced and their album Kill Grid. I reckon this band are one of the most slept on bands of this year. They are destined to take over that sort of crossover thrash throne, and there's hints of Obituary meets Slayer, Power Trip throughout this record. It's an absolute monster of an album, and I really, really urge you guys to just give it a listen. After that is Asphyx and Necroceros. So I worked on this album in January and it received great reviews. But for me, what I loved about this album in particular is that they kind of embraced more of a classic rock vibe. And also it was quite poignant because I remember interviewing them at Damnation, 5 years ago, for my zine at the time, and then I got to actually work with them, which was really, really cool. So definitely check that one out as well. Next up is Bewitcher and Cursed Be Thy Kingdom. This is a great little ripper of an album, very much in that heavy metal style. You've got kind of like a crossover between Pentagram meets Motley Crue by way of Tribulation as well. Really cool, very well put together, definitely one to listen to. After that, we moved to Iceland with Ophidian Eye over on Season of Mist. That was an absolutely great campaign to work. I love these guys. I think they're onto something really, really promising. It was a Really, really fun. I think a lot of people kind of discovered this band, and I've seen them on quite a lot of end of year lists, which I thought was really, really cool. So definitely keep your eyes peeled, especially if you like technical death metal, on Ophidian Eye.
You died.
Next is Ice Nine Kills, where I got my first actual national newspaper album review, which was in the Financial Times for these guys. So that holds kind of like a dear place in my heart. But also, I really just, I've grown to really love this band. I think, you know, they do great metalcore, but with the whole horror nod thing, it really appeals to the inner geek in me as well. Amazing record, absolutely incredible. I remember the first time hearing this back in October 2020, blew my socks off, and I couldn't wait to shout about this. It ended up with basically being a career highlight for me so far as a PR, and I had 3 different print covers for the guys, which was an amazing learning experience and just so cool to see. I remember when I got sent the promo for Children of the Night, and I remember saying to the PR at the time, just being like, oh, I really want to, you know, like do as much as I can to make these guys as big as possible. And then here I am working with them, which was just really, really surreal. They're such a fantastic band. And even though Jonathan has left the group, I think that they're on to nothing but success. This is without a doubt one of my favorite albums. It's also technically a tie for my album of the year, but because I worked it, I didn't include it in that. Is it any surprise? It's between The Buried in Me and Colours 2. If you're not a fan of Between the Buried and Me, you'll probably enjoy it. But if you are a fan, it's like being given the keys to the candy shop and just literally being like, eat whatever you want. It is the best sort of iteration, I think, of all eras of Between the Buried and Me. I think it's just the band absolutely firing on all cylinders. I had an amazing chat with Tommy about this as well, which was really eye-opening. Get to, you know, talk about Colours 1 and Colours 2 and how they kind of interact together. So that was really, really cool. But most of all, it was because 14-year-old me would have just lost his mind. I remember when we were first talking about the campaign and, you know, the new album and stuff, and I obviously found out there was a new Between the Buried and Me album, which was great. But then I found out it was Colours 2. So I was like, oh my God, the album I'm like working on is going to be Colours 2. This is insane. Without a doubt, masterpiece of a record. I've not stopped listening to it. This year I've had a bit more time to sort of reflect on things, and I wanted to have a non-metal album of the year, which for me is Billie Eilish's Happier Than Ever. It's brilliant to see Billie kind of coming of age and, you know, embracing womanhood. And I think that she's a fantastic role model for the younger generation. I think that she's created an album that not only kind of questions the idea of, you know, self-esteem, body image, and, you know, other people's perception of you. And I think, you know, with someone who has a platform as big as Billie Eilish, that's really quite important. And I kind of really do commend her for it. But I also love the fact that this is so different from When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? Like, you know, I feel like that one was kind of like a teenager, whereas this one is more kind of like, you know, Billie Eilish kind of becoming more aware of her sort of ability as a singer, but also, you know, what she can do, and also what she wants to say, I think was another big thing. So a lot of it was to do with, you know, the actual lyrical content on here, but then the songwriting again is really, really great, and I think she's doing really wonderful things for young people. So yeah. And now we come to my album of the year. It is the one and only absolute masterpiece, Rivers of Nihil, The Work. Got to listen to this album quite early on, and I remember first hearing it and thinking, wow, this is big. This is going to be one of the biggest albums of the year for me personally. I didn't quite understand it straight away. It wasn't necessarily as immediate as Owls, but then that's because I think it is so much bigger than Owls. You know, the work is essentially, you know, hold my beer for Where Owls Know My Name. Like, it's honestly one of the most expansive, engaging, overall kind of completely unique albums I've listened to in like a really, really long time. And one of the things that I think I love the most about this is the fact that it's not Owls 2.0, you know, like I think it was really important that the band obviously, you know, took what they had from Owls but made it into something completely different. And, you know, with the great idea of having the seasons as kind of like a blueprint for that, you can, because winter is a completely different season to autumn. The work is a dense, demanding, and incredibly powerful record. And also one of the things I really loved about it is that it, for me, kind of really reflected the emotions of not just like this year, 2021, but 2020 as well, which is obviously like when the guys wrote it. And it's kind of this sort of seesawing between kind of like a fever dream and a nightmare. And I feel like that's what a lot of people were kind of like during the pandemic, and still are, really, to be honest. But it's also Rivers of Nihil expanding their sound. You know, they're trying something different, and I really don't think there's anyone else in metal like them at the minute. You know, they're just in a league of their own. I also think that the field recordings, you know, I don't know how familiar you guys are with this record, but Brody went out with some friends and basically went and did all of this field recording in and around the area of Pennsylvania where they live. And I just think that's so out of the box, you know, like it kind of lends the record to be something completely different. I think it was it Andy? I think he said it was a sound world. And it is a sound world. Quite honestly, no other band out there sounds like them. I honestly don't think there's any competition for me personally. But, you know, I'm a huge progressive fan. You know, I like something that's doing something different. And that's kind of what I always try and have my album of the year as. It really makes a statement for where this band and metal can go from now. And I think, you know, they did that already with Owls, and they've just done it all over again. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see where they go from here. That's kind of my lot this year. I'm done. It's always weird, man. Like, you know, I do love having my channel and stuff, but sometimes it can be a bit difficult to make sure I'm on schedule, and, you know, like I'm getting older and have more sort of responsibilities and stuff. So I just really appreciate you guys taking the time to always, you know, like watch my interviews or album reviews or anything like that. It really does mean the world. But other than that, this is my final video for 2021. So I wish you all the merriest of Christmases and the happiest of New Years. And I will be back as ever in January with probably Wilder Run's album. I think I'm going to review that now that I can, because that is fucking brilliant. So there's a little teaser for you. And then, yeah, here's to 2022, hey? Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe as ever. You guys know the drill. Merry Christmas, and I will see you very, very soon. Take care, my friends.